everyone. Okay, so I am deep in pre-movers chaos, and I thought this would be a good time for me to kind of just randomly talk a bit about ADHD and my self-diagnosis and how that has really helped me and given me a lot of peace towards the way my brain works and the way my life looks different than someone who doesn't have this unique way of thinking. And so back about a year ago, I had an IFS life coach, internal family systems, and she had me read the book, How to Keep House While Drowning. And in that book, it talked about neurodivergent and how you have to kind of tweak things a little bit to make things more simple and to have more baby steps and to have a lot more like reinforcement. And I read that and I was like, oh, that's not me, but it kind of was me. And then I started reading ADHD for Women. I'll link the books down below. And that book was like, it was me. It was like, this is me. This is my struggle. These are my prefrontal cortex struggles, my executive functioning struggles that I couldn't put a name to. And I was yes, I was in a stress spiral, but I was slightly in a stress spiral because I didn't realize that I had these challenges that really just needed a little bit of extra like love and care in order to get out of them. And so I guess like this video is really just an attempt to ask all of you, especially you women, especially if you're in your like late 30s, early 40s, to pause and say, like, could I possibly think differently than someone who is normally, I don't know what the term is, like just neurologically normal. And I think it's like 10% of the population has ADHD. And so it used to be when we were kids that ADD was attention deficit disorder. And that's when you just were kind of distracted easily. It really wasn't that you were distracted easily, it's that you were hyper focused on one thing and couldn't like attend to other things, or you were attending to too many things at once. And that definitely, I do find myself kind of in a more chaotic environment. I'm attending to everything and it feels like everything needs to be fixed right now. And that's when I go to a place I don't want to go. Then there's the hyperactive side where you have really, like to me, it's like that squirrel brain, that spirally thoughts. It's been described as having so many trains going in your head and you're just like kind of train hopping, but they're kind of all running around at the same time. And so like I did the self-analysis test and I actually scored pretty high on both, which is funny because like I was an A student, I went to law school. And so like, why can't I like, I mean, that's moving prep, but like, why is my home look like that? Right? Like, why don't I put things away? Am I just slothful? Am I just lazy? And am I just like, well, kind of, because I need the dopamine hit more than the average person to do things that are really tedious and hard. One thing I heard recently by someone who had been diagnosed was like, if you buy journals, like workbooks, and you only do a couple pages and then it just collects dust, that can be a sign that like, you're not you don't have that temperament where you're, because your brain works differently, where you're not like wanting to fill the whole thing out and to be kind of that more of that, I don't know, that finisher. There's also, so much uniqueness in this in terms of like with strength finders. I think I talked about that a little bit. Like, I am an activator. I love starting things. I'm really, really struggle with finishing the process. And so, but I think that it's underdiagnosed women for sure. And also there can be like a hormonal component to it, to where when your hormones start to get kind of wonky in your late 30s, early 40s, your ADHD symptoms, which now they use ADHD for everybody, and then you can just be one more or the other, like that starts to, hello?
When's the giveaway place open?
9.
Today?
Yeah.
Oh.
So, so that it starts to become, that's my train of thought. It can become more activated and more aware. And just because you do well in school doesn't mean that you don't have it. Like that was the thing that was really, like I was a high achiever. So why would I have ADHD? I thought ADHD was for people who, were like just distracted or super hyper, like jumping off the walls. But there's just a lot of dynamics that go into that. And so I'll link down below the quiz you can take to kind of self-diagnose. And the thing that was helpful for me, I'm not on medication at all. I did think about it. I did think about going to get an official diagnosis. I think that diagnosis for me gave me a lot of peace and gave me steps forward. But we'll talk about in another video how I don't want to be, I have ADHD, therefore I can't do this, or I have ADHD, therefore that's my excuse for things. And so that's what's you have to be careful with labels. They can be empowering, but then they can also turn into actually a crutch or even something detrimental to moving forward. And that's where things like a growth mindset come into play. And this idea that, even if I have additional struggles, there's ways to move forward and ways to tweak things. Like this is way easier for me than sitting down and trying to edit a video. Not having a schedule is nice. Not having pressure is nice. There's different things. I also self-medicate with caffeine. So there's actually a lot of doctors out there who even have ADHD and will say, the medication for some people really, really works. But for some people it doesn't. And you can always try to medicate with caffeine. And because I fast, which has been really helpful, we'll talk about that later, I'm kind of sipping on a half calf blend of, just a half calf coffee for most of my morning or most of the day until I break my fast in the afternoon or evening. And that allows my brain to really kind of smooth out and function well. But that's not fun for my brain. And I can tell because I'm on the other side of my ovulation that my ADHD brain is starting to want to spiral, and I'm starting to want to go down this path of despair, and the fact that I can't, I just want to burn it all to the ground. And so, so it's something I'm going to work through today, and I do a lot of prayer journaling to do that. But anyway, this is just a video to just kind of bring your attention to the fact that if you kind of feel like you've always been different than everybody else, and maybe you've done some mirroring, or you have imposter syndrome, or maybe you are really sensitive to rejection. There's a lot of different elements to this. I'm going to put, like I said, a couple links down below in the description, so please check those out. And just don't be afraid to explore this, even if it ends up being a no, even if you're oh no, I don't actually qualify for any of these things. But I think, like I said, knowledge is power. And as long as we use our knowledge towards growth and not as a handicap, I really do believe that God gave me a blessing when he helped me to realize this about myself. So I wanted to share. Okay, thanks, Christy. Bye, guys.